A significant parable of workers from various state services and the private sector promptly marked this day. While President of Kosibu discussed the situation of rising prices in the markets, making life expensive, President Evariste Ndayishimiye called on workers to increase productivity. Godier Gato has details.
The celebrations marking International Workers' Day in Burundi were launched with an impressive parade led by the Minister of Public Service, Veniste Muyabaga. He was accompanied by officials from his ministry, representatives of the Presidency of the Republic, urban commune employees, as well as executives from various ministries. The parade also featured the participation of major social security institutions such as the National Institute of Social Security, INSS, along with insurance companies including Sokabo, ICAR, and SOCAR. Banks and microfinance institutions were also represented. Among the companies present, the Fomi company stood out alongside its affiliated services such as Inhinzo Insurance, the Itracom Transport Service, and Itrapac, which specializes in packaging production. The Umugiraneza Foundation, a humanitarian organization led by the First Lady Angelina Ndayishimiye, also took part in the parade. This foundation is actively engaged in the fight against infertility in Burundi through its in vitro fertilization program. Also present were entities under the Ministry of Communication, such as the National Radio and the Television of Burundi, and telecommunications companies including Econet Wireless and Onatel. Speaking on behalf of the workers, Celestin Savimana, President of the Confederation of Trade Unions of Burundi, stated that the celebration of this day is an opportunity for workers to self-evaluate. He emphasized the rising prices in the markets, which are making life increasingly expensive. In this regard, he called for open dialogue between the government and union representatives to address the challenges facing workers. In response, the President of the Republic, Evariste Ndayishimiye, expressed his support for such dialogue. He affirmed that constructive discussions between employers and workers enable the adoption of mutually beneficial decisions for workers' welfare. Regarding the surge in market prices, the head of state urged the workers to increase productivity, a condition he said would allow for possible salary adjustments. Furthermore, the president commended the leaders of the Economic and Youth Employment Program, PAEG, for supporting many young people who are now reaching promising levels of socio-economic development. On this occasion, each PAEG leader received an envelope containing 5 million Burundian francs and a certificate of honor. The head of state also promised each of them a Toyota vehicle to facilitate their mobility. Also present at the ceremony were former President Sylvestre Ntibantunganya, former First Ladies, the Secretary General of the CNDD-FDD party, members of the diplomatic corps accredited to Burundi, and other high-ranking dignitaries.
The Labour International Day was also celebrated in Bururi Province. The second Vice Speaker of the National Assembly, Abel Gashasi, attended the ceremonies as a government envoy. Marius Mhigwe was in the Bururi Province.
School uniform at Kabuye Stadium, Bururi Province, Kilemba Sid High School led the parade in these ceremonies. Following the same rhythm, workers from the health sector, education sector, agriculture and the livestock sector, the Catholic Church, students from various schools, public and private schools, such as Monseigneur Boudou Dila Technical School, public enterprises, and many others. In his speech, Burundi Provincial Governor thanked the government of Burundi for considering people of limited means by involving them in the project Melanhavandi. He encouraged the population of Bururi Province to increase their production. Abere Gashatsi, the second Vice Speaker of the National Assembly and also the special envoy of the government in Bururi province during those ceremonies, he then provided a message of Burundi head of state in those ceremonies. Related events was also attended by other provincial officials, to name the defense and the security forces, as well as many others.
As I said in top stories, every year on May 1st, many countries in the world celebrate Labor Day, a moment to remember the workers' struggles of the 1886 in Chicago, established 1 year after in 1889. This day is now a public holiday in many countries. In Burundi, it coincides with the implementation of a new wage policy. But what really is history of this day? Our colleague Jivanda Ishimie made research about this day dedicated to the labor.
Every year on May 1st, millions of workers march through the streets around the world to celebrate Labor Day. However, behind these ceremonies lies a long history of workers' struggles and the fight for dignity. Where does this day come from and why it is so symbolic? Labor Day has its roots in the workers' movement of the 19th century, particularly in the United States of America, where on May 1st, 1886, thousands of workers protested to demand an 8-hour workday. In Chicago, the strike lasted several days. On May 4th, 1886, a demonstration turned tragic. A bomb exploded in High Market Square, killing several police officers and the protesters. This event deeply marked the history of the labor movement. In 1889, the Second Socialist International meeting in Paris decided to establish May 1st as International Workers' Day in tribute to the victims of Chicago. Since then, May 1st has become a worldwide symbol of the struggle for social rights. Today, although Labor Day is often celebrated in many countries as public holiday, some countries do not commemorate this day. In the United States and Canada, for example, Labor Day is celebrated on the first Monday of September. Other countries such as Iran, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Japan, Switzerland, and others do not observe May 1st as a public holiday. In Burundi, Labor Day is an opportunity to celebrate work and the workers by highlighting the country's achievement and encouraging economic development. It is also an occasion for self-evaluation and setting future goals. This event is marked by parades of workers from various sectors, both public and private, official speeches
with a special status are calling the government to be governed by with a special status are calling the government to be governed by the same regulations while awaiting the implementation of the fair wage policy. Jagso Ilakoze reports.
Since 2016, the advancement in grades, allowances, bonuses, and annuities for Burundian civil servants has been flattened. This freeze remains an effect for public institutions with special status. On March 22, 2024, the President of Burundi signed a decree aimed at harmonizing the procedures for grade advancement, bonuses, allowances, and title-based benefits within these special status public institutions. However, employees and the union representatives expressed concern that this policy has yet to be implemented. Patrice Saboguheba, Burundi University worker, informs. Currently, neither the previous statutes nor the new salary policy are being applied, leaving employees in a state of uncertainty. He advocates for an evaluation of equitable salary policy process, especially if obstacles arise during its implementation. He goes further and suggests that in the interim, gradual advancement should be permitted, similar to practices in other organizations, while awaiting the full realization of the equitable salary policy. There is also a call for adherence to the regulations governing special status institutions. And Evariste Nibigira, Secretary General of the Free Trade Union of Employees
of the National Institute of Statistics of Burundi points out that the union representatives highlight that a commission has been established by the relevant authorities to oversee this matter. However, they noted the absence of worker representation within this commission. He emphasizes the importance of a tripartite partnership involving workers, employers, and the state to ensure fair and inclusive decision-making. Celestin Savyimana, president of the Confederation of Trade Unions of Burundi, on his behalf, the Confederation of Trade Unions of Burundi urges the regularization of workers in special status institutions, expressing disappointment that the extension of the salary policy to these institutions has not yet taken effect. Despite the existence of a decree outlining the modality of this policy, its implementation remains pending. In the meantime, there is a strong recommendation to enforce the existing labor code and the statutes governing these entities. Note that these concerns are particularly pertinent as on Thursday, May 1st, 2025, these workers join others in celebrating International Labor Day, highlighting ongoing issues in labor rights and compensation.
Well, we keep on our English news edition. The interconnectivity of the Gisabo software is functioning properly across our provinces, according to the country's new administrative divisions. This was confirmed by the spokesperson of the Ministry of Public Services, Labor and Employment during their visit to the personnel of the Ministry's Infonet services in the capital city of Ngozi province on this Wednesday to assess the applicability of the Gisabo software, which facilitates the interconnection of the Ministry services. This is the report by Karimu Nkeshimana, but translated by Joseph Mulindajambo.
This person is one of the agents of the Infonet service under the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Employment, who was explaining to the ministry's spokesperson how the Gisabo software works. This software helps civil servants accessing their files, whereas those who still had problems previously had to travel to the city of Bujumbura to obtain information on their situation. According to Patience Manius Nyandwi, spokesperson for the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Employment, this activity was underway at Ngozi Provincial Office, where the Infonet agents work to verify the accuracy of the information provided by the software developers. According to him, they found that the software was working properly. He also stated that the software is flawless. Patience Manius Nyandwi indicated that Infonet agents from the Ministry of Public Service operating in 5 new provinces expanded according to the country's administrative divisions. We have access to the interconnection technology via the Gisabo software to address issues encountered by civil servants. However, Chanzo province is the only one that has not yet received the Gisabo software, where the network is currently being restored. Officials from the Ministry of Public Service who use the Gisabo software have requested training so they can continue using the Gisabo software effectively in the future, with the aim of better serving all those who seek assistance.
In environmental report, we highlighted the issue of plastic bottle waste in Bujumbura, where discarded bottles from various beverages are often carelessly littered throughout the city. During rainfall, these plastics can be washed into Lake Tanganyika, endangering aquatic life. Jagso Irakoze once again.
These plastic wastes are primarily industrial in origin, stemming from companies that produce consumable beverages such as mineral waters, juices, and other products. Most of these plastics are manufactured in Burundi using imported raw materials, while others are imported already filled with various beverages for sale. Unfortunately, after use, these plastic waste are often discarded indiscriminately throughout Bujumbura due to the lack of stringent enforcement of regulations prohibiting such littering. During rainfall, these plastics are carried by streams and the rivers that eventually discharge into Lake Tanganyika, contributing to its pollution. Christiane Mubona, Director General of Environment, Water Resources and Sanitation, emphasizes that disposing of plastic waste in inappropriate locations is a harmful practice that pollutes the environment. He underscores that environmental protection is a collective responsibility essential for the current and future well-being of the population. Environmental expert Dr. Jean Sabimana highlights that these plastics pose a significant pollution threat, jeopardizing the quality of Lake Tanganyika's waters and the fish consumed by the local population. He advocates for collective responsibility in safeguarding the lake and suggests that through recycling, these wastes could become valuable resources rather than environmental hazards. In response to these concerns, the Directorate General of Environment has initiated the collection of recyclable plastic waste to facilitate recycling processes. While some companies have begun recycling efforts, the prevalence of plastic waste remains high in Bujumbura's rivers, streams, and various neighborhoods, indicating that substantial work remains to address the issue effectively.
Wow, it's by here we conclude our English news broadcast. Thank you for being with us. Catch you later.